we'll call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance. Patrick, want to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing on our agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items? Not seeing, we'll go to the consent calendar. We have the minutes of September 19th, 2018, the September 2018 retirement report, the preliminary monthly financial report, and the quarterly trustee education and training report. Are there any items in the consent calendar people want to discuss or pull for separate action? Seeing none, they'll be approved by unanimous consent. And then we'll go on to discussion and possible action regarding the investment matters preliminary monthly investment report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trustees, you have the monthly flash report from our investment consultant before you. You can see that at the end of September, the value was $530 million of the trust. The returns, the preliminary returns for the total fund for the month were just slightly negative, below the benchmark. But again, these are without the real estate returns in there. So those numbers will change once we get the quarterly real estate numbers included. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Not a question, but I'm sure glad to see the markets going back up.
It's been an interesting ride the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we could arrange a free pay period per month, we'd be back in positive cash flow.
We'll talk to the county about that. See what we can do.
Okay, agenda item 4, which is discussion regarding public safety contributions correction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trustees, you have the memo explaining the issue and the attached draft letter. At issue here, and I'll briefly summarize, I know you've all read this, but I want to briefly highlight this issue. We discovered our auditors were testing contribution amounts, and this is from the audit last year. They were unable to verify or match the contributions from one public safety member. When we dug into the issue, we discovered that because of the shortcut methodology that the county uses for calculating the contributions, it works in every case unless there is a subsidy paid by the employer. And there is one subsidy that is still in place for public safety members. It's the cost of living contribution subsidy. The amount that of discrepancy created is 87 cents per pay period per member. After we got through the audit, we started digging into the issue, determining the amount of contributions that were owed to members. And also recalled that there were earlier subsidies that were likely affected that expanded the scope of the project. So we went through the historical all the way back to the mid-90s to determine the actual amounts owed to all of our members. And we have the numbers included here, the rough numbers. It's approximately $100,000 that we'll be paying in $100,000 in total to almost a little over 160 retired and deferred members, and then the county is going to be paying about the same amount to 80 to 85 active members to return those contributions that were overpaid by those members. We're coordinating with the county. The county plans to make that payment in the pay period where the checks go out on October 26th, and we will be sending the money out to retired beneficiaries and deferreds at the end of October 31st. So,
What's the range of individual amounts that were in there? I mean, is there a lot for somebody?
so for active members, the average is over $1,000 per.
I see the average, I just wondered what the range was.
I don't have those numbers right in front of me. It's going to depend on how long the member was employed in the period, which of the regular subsidies they were entitled to during that period from 94 to 2015, whether it was the 3%, the 6%, or the 9%.
So it could be
And
all
sometimes they were 3% for some period,
Right.
9% for other periods, and it's been an exhaustive review of every affected member to determine exactly what they're getting. But I don't know the range of numbers right off the top of my head. The important people have all that, so.
There we go.
Is anyone still being impacted by this? Is there any bargaining unit that still has?
So when we realized, so the historical subsidies went away in 2015 after PEPRA implementation. But the cost of living impact, the subsidy was still in the bargaining units for the public safety members. And that's still there today. But when we realized that this was happening, we worked with the auditor's office, and they are making a manual adjustment of the 87 cents for those affected members to get it right. And that started several months ago. I can't it started several months ago, the 87 cent adjustment to their contribution. So as soon as we got it figured out and knew exactly what we were talking about, the auditor started making those adjustments. And the employees are getting the extra 87 cents. So we cut it off as soon as we knew that it was happening and knew how to correct it. So it's not increasing going forward,
Okay.
is where we are.
I assume these distributions will be taxable?
Yes,
Show up
yes.
as income for this year?
Yes, all these distributions are taxable because they were paid pre-tax.
Got it.
We did review this with tax counsel. I'll remind those of you who've been here a while that the association did this before. We had a contribution correction issue previously with tax counsel, so we didn't send all of it back with tax counsel and have to go through everything because we've done it before. The one thing that is new is that we are able to go ahead and pay the deferred members. Now, the IRS has changed their stance. We can make a distribution. It's not considered a distribution because we're correcting contributions that were made in error. The service used to consider that to be an in-service distribution, which is not allowed. They've changed their position on that, so that's able to be done. So we're going to get it all done this month and be finished with it. So.
There was a time, way before me, in the 70s, when it was optional, because a lot of this is caused by the Social Security
Integration.
Integration. But in the mid to late 70s, it was no longer optional whether you had Social Security or not. Prior to that point in time, it was. So we had a carryover where we kept doing this contribution calculation because of the subsidy, or because of the integration with Social Security. But now that everybody has Social Security, why do we still have to go through this calculation? Why can't the actuaries just come up with a calculation for everybody without doing this,
The shortcut.
Well, it's not even a shortcut. You go through and it's a percentage of your first $160-some and a different percentage from the rest. When everybody's on Social Security, couldn't the actuaries come up with a contribution rate that is good for everybody without this adjustment? I know there was a time when the last person who chose not to have Social Security was still involved, but that was one person for many, many years. And I think I've asked this of actuaries before, but I don't remember what their answer was, but there seemed to be a reason why they couldn't do it, but I'm having a hard time understanding why They just don't come up with a rate that doesn't need to be adjusted for Social Security when everybody has it.
The most honest answer I can give you is I don't know right now today, if that's something that we could change. Certainly a question we could ask. I do know that with the Social Security integration, the way it works is there's a lower contribution amount on the first X dollars per pay period, and then there's an adjustment on the back end that we don't pay benefits on the first X dollars of annual comp or something like that. And the exact details on all of that are not crystal clear in my mind right now. But I know there's an adjustment on the contributions coming in and the benefits that we pay.
There's an adjustment that's done to the percent of payroll that you're going to get as a retiree based on how many years you are from the mandatory retirement age.
Okay.
So I would think we could eliminate all that and just have one rate for everybody and eliminate that last calculation because everybody's on Social Security now. There's not the option of some being on, some not.
That's a question we could ask the actuary and see if there's a way to simplify that.
And it seems like this calculation, as complicated as it was, wasn't caught by at least 3 different audit firms. So it
So this is a question for James or Judy, but so this is being corrected now going forward by the auditor's office. Is this calculation made by the auditor's office for all public safety or just the legacy public safety employees?
Just legacy.
So it's a diminishing number of people
Yes.
over time? Okay.
Yes. The PEPRA public safety, there's a flat rate. Both on public safety and general side, it's a flat rate for everyone. There's no 2-tier approach.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve, you're just informing us?
Just informing the board that this correction is being made. I didn't believe this was an action that needed approval of the board. We have to do this. We have to make it right.
Okay. And then we have the 2018 work plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trustees, you have the updated work plan before you. With your indulgence, I'd like to go through this in some amount of detail. This is, I believe, one of the most important things that we do on a quarterly basis here. So, still getting the benefits out on time, on schedule, doing well with that. The historical benefit review project is still progressing. I do not believe we're going to make the due date of 4th quarter 2018 on that. It's just not progressing as quickly as we had hoped, but we are continuing to work on it. The business continuity plan is almost done, and it is well past its deadline, and that's my fault. We had some issues getting the contract with Pension Gold for PG Secure that the board approved completed. That was the last piece. Now it's just putting a bow on it, tying it off, and being completely done, and we're almost there. The risk assessment is still in queue, and we'll see when we get to that. I don't know if we'll get it started at the beginning of 2019. As I look around, we have a lot of projects that are going to go past their deadline and some new projects coming on board as well that are going to crowd out. I think in early 2019 we're going to have a discussion about some of these priorities and decide what we really need to focus our time on in terms of getting these things moving. The COLA reevaluation's done, completed that last month. I got something done on time, yay! Moving on to board employing a policy-focused governance model and operating a high-performance team. On board with maintaining the policy review schedule, keeping on top of the work plan, and the board training. We're all doing well there. All of you who were at the board meeting last month got credit for the real assets education provided by Callan. The board evaluations we talked about last month, and those will be coming soon. On deck, not just in queue, but it's on deck. So those will be coming soon. Organizational review. This was looking at the organization as a whole and our people and what we need to be doing and where I think we need to be. The county was undertaking a compensation study, which I thought was going to be more of a classification review. But I'm now of the understanding that it's just a compensation study. Is that?
Well, so there were surveys sent to 900 or so employees, about 200 or so sent responses back, just to confirm that the job description they have is accurately reflecting what they're doing. So that's helpful in doing the compensation study. So,
right.
And then I think they're going to send out to the remaining employees who didn't get the survey.
Okay.
But it's largely a compensation.
Right. It's largely, I believe it's largely a compensation study. I believe we have an issue here at MCERO, not with, well, it's classification. The jobs of our staff have changed markedly over time with the implementation of Pension Gold and with the way we've moved the organization forward and how we're really focusing on projects and a lot of other things. I think a lot of our jobs have grown, and we need to put forth some effort to review the classifications of the positions we have here, because I think the work has elevated. It's no longer clerical work. It's a higher level work that's being done, but the job descriptions are still largely clerical.
But do you think a first step is to make sure that all the employees turn in that survey?
So all of our employees that got the survey did return that, but it wasn't sent to all of our employees.
Okay, maybe there's a way of getting one for everybody.
Okay. So I think we have a responsibility and a duty to make sure that the job classifications match what people are doing, and I don't think that is the case today. I feel a need to move forward with this project and put some time and effort into getting those things aligned. It's going to take some of my time to make that happen, and if that happens, if indeed we come to the realization that these job descriptions don't match what we're doing and we need higher level job descriptions, that's going to mean changing job descriptions, which is going to bring along costs to the organization. I just want to make sure everyone understands what I'm talking about and there's no major discomfort with looking into this and making it happen.
This isn't another Slavin study.
No, absolutely not.
Because it just never made sense to me unless I was a beneficiary about the way these Slavin studies went out. And here in Mendocino County, we look at Sonoma County and we look at San Francisco and they're making more, so we come higher, and then since we're higher, Sonoma County and San Francisco, it's the kind of thing I think that made our business community absolutely claw the walls. So I'm hoping that it truly isn't what this is. But then secondly, I'm surprised to hear our staff described as clerical, because clearly they aren't.
I agree.
was gonna ask, have you talked to HR recently at all about classification review for people? Because I know, speaking of what you're saying, I think most positions haven't been reviewed in a long time. I think more than half the county positions haven't been reviewed since that last study. So I don't know if there's any way that, if you explain the situation to HR, if they could begin a review, because they are reviewing people separately.
I did make a request many, many months ago for a review, and that request was denied because of
The study.
the study.
Okay. Because what I was also gonna say was that in the beginning, I think a lot of people thought that the study was both classification and compensation due to some confusion, and there may even be people in HR that shared that confusion at the time, because there's different answers depending on when you talk to somebody. So now I agree that it is a compensation study, but that answer has changed over time, so it might be worth checking back in.
Okay.
Well,
Definitely.
it is a compensation study, but they're also asking people, are you doing work that's different, which does make it a classification analysis as well. So they are moving people in the system based on the responses they're getting to the description of their work today. So if people don't respond, they're not going to get a change. If they respond that they're doing different work, there's a possibility that it will be adjusted, and I think a likelihood.
Right. But what I think I understood was that originally when we got those surveys, at least those that did, was that simply checking that box and filling out the survey explaining the differences would be essentially a request for review. But now it's our understanding that you have to separately request that review later, which is different. We've heard both answers over time. So that's just what I'm not sure about.
Well, yesterday's board meeting, the HR director said that based on those comments, they are going to be moving people in the point system.
Okay.
So it will move some people
Do
around,
that.
maybe not to the extent that a traditional job classification request or change of job classification might, maybe that might be more dramatic, I don't know.
Okay.
But again, 200-something people responded, 900 people were sent surveys. So it's kind of critical people turn the survey responses.
Everyone at MSARA, every staff member at MSARA that received a survey returned it. I can tell you that we had 100% participation there.
That's because their bosses silently agreed.
Can I make a just brief comment? I didn't receive a survey, and I wanted to say something, but I was given the impression that I shouldn't say anything until the study was done. So I wanted to do something independently on my own, and I was told to wait. So
I've never received any communication.
No, 1,100 or so employees, 900 received it supposedly, so it's.
I talked to a lot of people yesterday that didn't receive it, so we're also struggling with the number.
So will everyone now receive it? Those who didn't get one, will get
I think what she said also though was that they thought a high enough percentage, even with the 200 or so, that they'll just take that data, that there were enough people in basically every kind of classification that they can make adjustments based on that. But that you might have a small department or a large department where some positions more dramatically changed, but they weren't surveyed.
Thank you.
I plan to move forward with this project. I don't know exactly what that will look like and what it will mean at this point in time, but I plan to move forward. I think that's about. I wanted to touch base with the board before I just run off and start doing things.
So a question to Dan on this. I think of the universe of checking on public works employee, technician 2, pretty comparable position around counties. But when the county would evaluate this office, are they going to use county or positions, or are they going to go like to other Sarahs and compare those? Because I would imagine that's a better.
I think it's a better fit. I don't know if planning on doing that level of detail right now, yeah.
Okay.
I have many more
Have fun.
questions than I have answers.
Yeah.
But I
I think the intent was to try to move as fast as they can, but there's a lot of positions to review all at once.
I was gonna say, I mean, in Sonoma County, classification studies are historically, they take a long time, so you wanna get to the head of the class, because, no pun intended, because it's gonna take a while, and so you wanna,
Where their target now is middle of April to finish this.
so they won't look at anything until that's done, or, I mean, can we get in line now and start?
Yeah, I don't know, I'm just saying this
Yeah.
project, they're hoping to complete by middle of April.
I think we,
Well, I think certainly submitting some preliminary work is a good idea.
yeah, get in the queue.
So, moving to page 2, the objective of 95% client approval rating. For the quarter, our approval rate was 4.83 out of 5. We got 5 out of 14 responses. Still doing well there. Bylaws, or the member handbook, that's in queue. The communication metrics, our due date was supposed to be in third quarter. That has been delayed. And the communication metrics were coming out of the communication strategy. That's been delayed because of other priorities, including the public safety contribution correction. It's also, we've been dealing with just regular work, audit season, actuarial review, all that kind of good end-of-year stuff hitting us. So we're behind schedule on that. Hopefully we'll have some of those to report to you next quarter. Board meeting on the coast, not I on the coast, but on the coast. I can't seem to type, got that done. The board has a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors planned for next year. That's in queue, we'll start working on that soon to see if we can set something up. Typically, when we've done that, we do it in January, because that's when the actuary comes to present to the Board of Supervisors. But that always presents some difficulty because the supervisors don't adopt a calendar until their first meeting in January. So it's hard to schedule something after that because they haven't adopted a calendar yet. But we'll see what we can do there. Conference presentations, I propose that we take that off our list. It's just something that I think is going to happen. I don't know that we need to keep track of it. So unless there's some major objection, we'll just take that off the list as something we track.
I still want to hear about conference presentations. You're talking about what that you or the staff do.
Or trustees,
Or
yes,
trustees.
yes. We absolutely want to hear about it. I just
You know,
thought it didn't need to
Yeah.
be something that we track as, are we doing this or not? I think it will happen. And yes, we absolutely will report those to the board. I just didn't think we needed to keep track of those,
Okay.
unless someone objects. The plan at a glance document is done. I'm sure you've all read it now, right? In all of its 25 pages. My apologies.
2 pages.
More pictures.
That was a significant work, and but hopefully you find some value in it. The next project under our communications there is the UAL one-pager. That is in progress. I'll be stealing some from the plan at a glance document for that and some other things.
Hopefully not page number.
No. It does say one pager.
Yeah, but the other's supposed to be 2
Big
pages.
page.
We know you now, James.
So we'll,
5-point kite.
and this is intended to be a public-facing document, so it's it's got to be at a much higher level than the plan at a glance document was. So probably more pictures than words and that kind of stuff. Moving on to the last page, maintain state-of-the-art technology. At the last board meeting, or maybe the board meeting before, we discussed the possibility of moving to electronic-only payments. So I added that to the board work plan. It's got a very long time horizon on it. Because we do need, there will be a lot of work involved with that. And I think it is important that we get some of these other things done before we start turning to those. We also have an IT security audit still on here. It's still in queue. This is another one of those. I don't know if we're going to be able to, if we're going to start this on time. I think we'll have a conversation next quarter about how does this fit in the priorities, and make sure we're tackling the things that the board thinks are the most important things, but still getting all of our work done that needs to get done. Reaching 100% funded by 2040. We have nothing specifically, no project specifically under that, because we've done the actuarial audit. We keep doing actuarial evaluations every year. So there's nothing specifically under that area for now, but we'll keep an eye on that and think about if there's something we need to add there. Investing strategically, the consultant RFP is in process, and then we have some projects for early next year, investment belief statements. We'll start over with asset allocation and all of that after we get the RFP done. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if the board has any thoughts about projects you'd like to see advanced, demoted, added, or deleted.
What is an investment belief statement?
So an investment belief statement is a codification of, these are the things that we believe.
I figured that out.
Do we believe in the efficient markets hypothesis? Do we believe in the growth value classification of investments? Just truly outlining those things to give us a roadmap and some guidance of how we are going to invest. It's akin to a vision or a mission statement, but it's specific to the investments.
I call it touching the stone. I mean, what is our mutual beliefs?
Yes. What do we believe?
It's a good thing to do.
It does. I think it will be a helpful exercise to have those written down, and it will be part of our investment policy. That these are the things we believe. For example, I have seen, we believe in the weak form of the efficient markets hypothesis, and because of that, we index in investment spaces where we believe there's efficiency. I have seen, even going farther, investment beliefs of, we don't like investment managers that are owned by banks or insurance companies.
Okay.
And there's reasons you can argue that and reasons you cannot. The point of the exercise will be for the board to develop its set of beliefs in terms of how we want to operate and what we think moving forward.
So would this be something we would do after another offsite or retreat or?
No, I think we would do it in board meetings,
meetings,
yes. And working with the consultant, develop investment beliefs, including how the board feels about ESG or socially responsible investing.
Active versus passive management?
You could call this a catechism.
Catechism. For those of us who are Catholic, it's a little hard to understand.
It means what he said.
Guiding principles.
Okay, that makes more sense, I think.
Vow,
Yeah.
loyalty vows.
The item right above that is investment consultant, which shows fourth quarter 18. So are we intending to make a decision by the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay. So which board meeting? We only have 2 left, right?
At this point, I think December is when we will have investment consultant finalists present to the board.
And possibly a decision on the December meeting.
And more than possibly, hopefully.
Okay, all right, we'll make this part of
A
the decision.
decision.
Think about that.
Yeah. So, sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Just a question about your colors. The red and the black words, what's the difference?
Red is a change or something new, a change of status, and I make it red to highlight it, to make sure everyone sees it. That's all that means.
So some of those red ones will be black next time I see this?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
I have a question about the IT security audit. One question is this a standard thing that the county has ever engaged in, or is this like sort of a vanguard thing that we're doing because we need it, because it's more pertinent to what we're dealing with? I'm not, every conference I go to, there's a big presentation on IT security, and it's really scary, and then we go back to work and kind of put it on the
Forget it.
back burner. So I was just kind of curious about, are we doing an RFP for that, or maybe we've already done something and I forgot, as to selecting someone?
We have not done anything on that yet.
Okay,
That has a starting date of, or it currently has a start date of January 2019.
yeah.
With a completion date in fourth quarter 2019.
Okay.
I don't know what, if anything, the county has done in this space. I'm just not aware.
Yeah.
There's an IT master plan underway, which I think includes the IT security, but that's my understanding.
Okay.
This project came out of the strategic planning offsite. It was an issue there, and I do think it is important.
Sure.
We definitely need to be aware of our security, but I don't know exactly what this is going to look like. We will be doing, when we get there, I think it will definitely be an RFP. One thing that I have learned in listening to others talk about this is the RFP for this process will be run by legal counsel. We talked about that. You don't remember, but we did.
Why would you say that? Of course he remembers.
And the reason for that is so that the documents and the response, everything involved, can be protected by attorney-client privilege, so that these things are not out in the public domain where everyone can see, oh, we have a security weakness here. So,
Sounds exciting.
so yes, it is in queue. It's another one of those, I think it's a really, really big project. And we do want to get to it. I just don't know if we're going to get to it in the time frame that we're hoping to, because other things are happening and some other projects are running behind schedule that are going to impact when we can take on these projects. So,
Thank you.
I just want to say how much I appreciate you keeping us updated and bringing it to the board every quarter. It reminds me the things we talked about last year and where we are. I just appreciate this document.
Thank you.
Because we didn't even have one until James came.
Okay, so maybe we can go on to the employment agreement with the administrator. Maybe we have maybe a report from the negotiating team.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can lead off on that. So the negotiating committee met several times with James, trying to come up with an agreement. We had the board direction on that. What you have in front of you is what we all agreed on as being a proposal. I think that met everyone's criteria. We did make some changes. I'd like to call attention to a few. So under subsection 3, well, first off, we added a number of years, so the agreement will be in effect until December 2021. We did adjust the salary. We adjusted the annual increases. We also adjusted the bonus structure, which became a performance bonus instead of just a longevity bonus. That was another major change. We made a few other tweaks in terms of severance, changing the amount of severance. There's a 6-month severance policy and a few other additions there. And there is a small change to telework in terms of the number of days it's allowed. It's a change from, I believe, 12 to 15 work days every other month. And those were the major substantive changes. I don't know if people have particular questions about how we reached our numbers or methodology, or if James has something to add too.
I think that covers all the changes included therein. I will say I appreciate the committee's time and effort and work through all of this. And we've put forth a lot of effort into this from both the committee and myself. And I think at the end of the day, we all feel satisfied with where we ended up. So.
I just have a question. The agreement refers to you as Mendocino County Retirement Administrator, and is that in some way in conflict with being the executive director, or is that just a generic description of what you do?
So and I believe we did talk about this in the committee, and if the committee's okay with me laying this out. As far as the county's concerned, my job title is still Retirement Administrator, and that's what's in the contract, and that's what's on the county's position allocation table.
Okay.
But my working title, as far as MSERA is concerned, is Executive Director.
Okay.
And other counties have done that, and I'm fine with that. I don't think that presents any problems or challenges.
Okay.
I'd like to add from the committee's standpoint that, well, first of all, Patrick did an enormous amount of research and getting us lots of information from other counties, other boards, but also from within Mendocino County, and I appreciate Patrick's work tremendously. And I would say that if we had just looked at the job description for James's job compared to other counties in California, this would have looked a little bit differently. But based upon Mendocino County and all of the management pay levels in Mendocino County, and I had the same thing at the college. You know, every time I'd look out there at the state, Mendocino just had lower salaries than other places within the state. So we went over all the data statewide and all the data at Mendocino County, and that was provided by Patrick, and he did an awesome job of that, and that's how we came up with these numbers.
And there were 4 people on the committee.
Sherry was on the
Sherry.
committee,
Okay,
yes.
she's not present today,
Yes.
yes, okay. Right, so that's the
All the
recommendation.
committee did a great job.
So that, and this is the recommendation of the committee, right?
Yes,
It
the
is.
committee unanimously
Yeah.
put this forward.
Okay. Does someone want to make a motion or additional comments?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution as written.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Just, it's not a resolution, right, it's an agreement? We want to,
Agreement, as written.
Okay. Money's involved, probably roll call.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Ms. Caddis,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
and Mr. Knudsen,
yes,
Ms. Harris?
Yes,
And Chair Drury?
Yes. Okay, all right, now we're on to Stackers Fall Business Meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, trustees. For those of you who went and reviewed the board materials over the weekend, you have a different set of materials from those of you who reviewed it yesterday. I left the existing materials on the website and just added the new materials to that and thought I would explain it to you today. In the memo, I indicate that there's one voting item. It's a legislative proposal by Orange County. This week, Orange County requested the withdrawal of that legislative proposal. So there is no vote to be taken on any legislative proposal or anything else of substance at the SACRS meeting. So I believe we have no action needed on this item. And Catherine, if you have any other thoughts as SACRS board member?
No, I think that, I'm not sure why they withdrew that item from, maybe, do you know, or?
I do not
You don't
know.
the background? Okay.
So Catherine, I'm sure you're planning on going. Is anyone else on the board planning on
Yes.
going? Okay.
We'll be there as well.
Okay, all right.
Sherry's
And
going
Sherry,
to.
yeah.
Okay.
and it's in Indian,
Need oil. Nice time to be there.
it's still, yeah.
Okay, because we're on the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trustees, you have the administrative report before you. To update you on the investment consultant RFP, we received proposals from 7 respondents listed there. Stan and I have been working our way through the responses and having introductory calls with a number of the proposers here. I will remind the board that included in the budget that was approved for this year, we had some funds for Stan and I to travel to conduct due diligence on site with some semifinalists. We are working towards narrowing the list and scheduling that travel soon. There is the very strong likelihood that there will be travel out of state with this, but we have the funds included in the budget, so we're going to move forward with that. It's all going to be West Coast. There may be a trip to Portland.
Can board members go along?
Yeah.
Go visit my grandchildren?
I was gonna say, if you wanna, I wouldn't recommend it.
So you're gonna go visiting them and bring back a list of finalists. Are you thinking of bringing back 3 or 5? Or just if it happens that 5 are outstanding and you wanna bring back all 5, what's your thought process?
I would definitely like to have a subset, but I'm not going to create an artificial number and leave someone out that the board may like. It would be my intent to get to half or less. But if we end up with just 2 that we think are really, really strong and that the board should consider, we'll bring 2. If it's 5, we'll bring 5. I don't have a number in my mind, but this is what we have to bring.
So it's based on what you find?
Right,
Okay.
absolutely.
James, can you refresh my memory? How long is this contract, or how long would this contract be for?
Stan, did we write it for 3 years with 2 one-year options, or is it just a 5-year?
I think it's a 5 years.
5-year?
5 year. Is that what we have currently with Callan?
I think our current contract with Callan was just a 1-year extension, because we came to the end of our 5 years, and we've extended them twice, I think.
Got it.
I don't recognize any of the names other than Callan. Are these, any of these consultants that other 37 Acts use?
Absolutely, yes.
I
Aon,
recognize them, Jim.
Consults to Sonoma and San Diego County. Makita, I know they do Orange County and several others. I'm not remembering exactly who. NEPC, I know, does a number of 37 Act. PCA does San Joaquin, I know, and they have some others. Veris has a number of 37 Act counties. Vanguard's the only one that I'm not aware of having any 37 Act counties.
I think of Vanguard as a mutual fund company, not a consultant.
And so many of the systems have more than one consultant, right?
Some do, yes, yes. Some have a general consultant, and then they'll have a private equity consultant, or a real estate consultant, or this, that, or the other thing.
Right.
So, but we are just hiring general investment consultant
Yeah.
with this. It's that time of year again, getting close to the end of the year. Wanted to advise you that, like last year, we will be closing the office to the public around the holidays. You have the days listed there where we will be closed to the public. Staff will be allowed to use accrued time to take those days off, or if they want to be here working, they are allowed to do that as well. So, very, very similar to what we did last year. Finally, on the administrative report, you have the Sackers legislative report. This may be it's probably the penultimate version of this you're going to get this year, since the legislature is done or almost done, I believe. I'm not sure. What I've done here is, for the last several months, I'm just giving you updates from the prior month's report. So any changes in status from the prior month. So, and I'd be happy to avoid any questions you have on those bills.
I love it.
James, I've got one that's probably not listed here. Have you, and this maybe is for anyone else in the room as well, is we're all kind of waiting for something from the Supreme Court on the Marin case. I have not seen anything, articles and whatnot of late. Does anybody know where that stands? And
They're trying to push it along. I think people thought there'd be a decision the end of this year, but now it looks like it's going to go into next year. And there's 2 main issues. One will have to do with whether they can change the formula on a go-forward basis, which isn't our issue. It's the plan sponsor issue. And then the other had to do with more of the, if you recall from time to time, I've brought up when PEPRA was enacted, we adopted pay codes, and we said certain things are pensionable and certain things aren't, and we had big discussions several years ago, and the systems were split on how they interpreted it. And so we built in a provision that said if the court ever changes, we'll change on a go-forward basis, so that could cause us to revisit things like standby and on-call time. So that would be something that if the court reached a decision on that issue, that might be something that would impact this board. And we'll know some months from now.
but it's definitely a 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one I think they're going to try to push through this fall still. I was at a CRCEA conference yesterday, and the lobbyist for CRCEA was talking about the 3. There's Marin that affect retirement. One has to do with CAL FIRE.
Yeah.
And then the third one,
something had to do with airtime, but they'll eventually get to the issue of vested rights, and so they're trying to consolidate them, and I think that's why it's taken a little longer. I think the governor's sent a letter saying, come on, make a decision already.
He wants the one on airtime to be done before he leaves office, kind of has a legacy that I did this, I got rid of this for,
Yeah.
and airtime was something that, I sometimes think some of the retirement associations have brought this on themselves, all these lawsuits. You ask for way too much airtime and what's the other one? The one that you can do a forward.
Draw.
A drop.
Yeah.
I always refer to it as DROP because nobody would vote for no DORP. Deferred optional retirement, but, other than that.
Plan.
But if you changed it to DORP, nobody would want it, but DROP is one where you can retire at a point in time and bank all the monthly payments that you would get during that period of time, and then when you actually retire, you get a check for $200,000 and go buy your RV and off you go. Well,
Oh, my lord.
it's ridiculous. Some retirement systems have adopted it, not very many. And I think CAL FIRE is the only one that still does airtime. I think that's the issue with them. And that's, you can buy 5 years of service whether you ever work for a government agency or not. If you pay all the contributions, both employer and employee, and the interest, you get 5 extra years. And I can see why the governor wants to get rid of that. So.
One other item, if I may, Mr. Chairman, it's not included here, but just advising the board, next month we expect to have your first administrative hearing. An appeal, I just wanted to make you aware of that. Won't provide any details or discuss it yet, but we do expect to have that next month. It was scheduled this month, but the appellant was not able to be here and wanted to be here, and they're planning to be here in November, so. And our board meeting next month is November 7th. Actuaries will be here presenting evaluation.
To clarify, will we be holding the hearing?
Yes.
So we should expect a long, if we're having the actuary in the hearing that day, that would be a
long
fuller
day.
day.
I don't expect the hearing to be that long.
Okay.
The hearing, in the policy, there's a limit on how long the appellant has. They have 10 minutes to present their arguments. And I believe we have the same amount of time. I don't expect to use any time. Everything that I have will be in writing for your review ahead of time.
Nice.
And this is open or closed session?
Open. And Callan will be here next month. So, going to be a little bit longer meeting than this anyway.
I did have a question just on the legislative report about SB 1413, which was the pension pre-funding. I was wondering if you had heard anything about that. It's a program that's going to allow counties and other local agencies to pre-fund the contribution if they chose. But I think I had always thought they would do that directly with the Retirement Association, but the state's creating a different trust program where counties would deposit their money. I was just wondering if you've heard anything about that.
I have not heard anything about it. I don't know if that's, if it's targeting counties or cities or school
It's a
districts.
state and local public agency.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. In the beginning, it sounded like it was including counties. I just wasn't sure if that would ever impact us if the county chose to do this.
I don't know, is the best answer I can give you right now. We'll find out.
All right.
Okay, we're on to general board member discussion. Any general items? Saying none, I guess we're adjourned at 9:31.
Well,
Yay.
Is that a record? Have you ever done that before?
So, Hanson Bridge.
Certainly, in the old days, that would have.
So slow. Frustrated.